I can hardly believe that Wang Gu has also made a zombie movie. As our neighbor, this country's presence has always been low, especially in film. Most people probably haven't seen a single one. And recently, he has even made a zombie movie. Regardless of the film's quality, solely for the Mongolian zombie combination, I must take everyone to watch it. It's something. A bus slowly travels along the highway, carrying a group of young offenders. They are being sent to a remote concentration camp, preparing for a one-year labor reform program. The prisoners naively thought they were just changing their sleeping location, unaware that a nightmare awaited them. On the first day at the camp, to make the prisoners obedient, the drill instructor, under the supervisor's watch, harshly disciplined one of the troublemakers. During dinner that night, although everyone was eating well in the cafeteria, the instructor insisted on taking them outside. She placed the food on the ground, forcing them to eat like dogs. A short-haired female prisoner merely expressed her displeasure and was brutally beaten by the female instructor, who also painted a mark on her clothes. It was a warning. If it happens more than twice, the labor reform time will be extended by a month. Hearing this, a timid prisoner promptly complied. The others could only choose to back down, and compared to that, the previous prison was almost like paradise. In the concentration camp, there were no human rights, so within days, someone couldn't take it and escaped. But he ran until dawn and still couldn't get out of the forest. In the end, he was caught and brought back by the guards. The instructor took this opportunity to show everyone the consequences of escaping, unleashing a furious. He was locked in an iron cage outside, enduring 3 days and nights of freezing and hunger. The instructor warned everyone that although the concentration camp has no fences, anyone trying to escape, the outcome would worsen for them, implicating everyone. This time, the punishment was no dinner. Goodbye. In the following days, ruthless instructors continued to find various ways to abuse prisoners. They endured both physical torment and humiliation, and prolonged oppression drove them to leave the concentration camp, fearing he would eventually kill them. Finally, that night, they seized the opportunity when 2 well-dressed men in suits arrived at camp. The boss personally welcomed them, indicating their significance. Soon, the instructor came to the dormitory. He took away one of the more obedient prisoners. Seeing that most of the guards had followed them, the prisoners immediately realized this was a golden opportunity, so they quickly put on their clothes and escaped. Meanwhile, the taken prisoner was brought to a secret laboratory. A researcher in protective gear was injecting him with a certain agent. Everyone gathered around to watch this scene, and there was a little girl nearby, seemingly conducting some kind of experiment. However, the terrifying thing happened the next second. The person who was injected with the agent suddenly went crazy and lunged at the researcher nearby. Everyone quickly ran outside, but the terrifying thing was that those who were bitten also mutated. In the end, only a few leaders managed to escape by luck. The remaining people all turned into bloodthirsty zombies. The situation was critical, so the guards outside decisively opened fire, quickly taking down the pursuing zombies. But just when they thought the ordeal was over and were getting ready to handle the corpses, the zombies suddenly revived again and launched an attack on them. The prisoners who were trying to escape. They saw a terrifying scene. Zombies noticed and charged. Several prisoners were overpowered, plunging the camp into chaos. The instructor was desperately fending off zombies, while the supervisor ran towards the tower truck, attempting to drive away from here. But just as he was about to get into the car, a zombie lunged at him. Although he successfully took down the zombie, he only realized a deep bite on his palm after getting into the car. At that moment, the supervisor couldn't attend to it and hurriedly left, while the instructor finally managed to deal with the zombies. They saw the selfish supervisor driving the truck away, while the surviving prisoners spent the night escaping by boat. Finally, evading the zombies' pursuit, they met the instructor, who also survived, in the woods. However, the biggest enemy at the moment is the zombies, and they don't have the energy to settle scores with him for now. But then, they happened to discover that the supervisor's truck had stopped in the middle of the road, and they wanted to drive away with the truck. So they killed several nearby zombies together. However, when the two managed to enter the driver's cabin, the prisoner, being too nervous, accidentally broke the car key, causing all their efforts to vanish instantly. The two could only choose to get out of the car, but the noise they made attracted zombies. After several twists and turns, they had to return to the camp where at least there were safe rooms to hide in. The prisoner's mistake made the instructor very angry. He grabbed him, pinned him to the ground, and beat him up, thinking he was still the boss here. But now the situation has changed. The majority of the prisoners have taken control. They asked him about the zombies, but the instructor was unsure. He knew only that they were conducting human experiments that led to an accident, and he was responsible for providing test subjects. It was then that everyone realized. They came to the concentration camp to use the prisoners as guinea pigs. Furious, Dazhuang tied up the instructor with a rope, preparing to take turns guarding him. They planned to visit the armory the next day, seize weapons, and escape from the camp. The group rested overnight on an abandoned bus, but the next morning, two particularly lucky prisoners were still in the woods, with two zombies relentlessly chasing them. They ultimately escaped back to the camp and were rescued by Chang Mao through the window, but staying here is not a solution. Therefore, Da Zhuang decided to take action immediately, but now they faced a problem. No transportation. Even armed, escaping on foot is difficult. However, the instructor brought good news, a nearby usable truck and several similar camps. Thank you for watching. One of them was near their location, but unexpectedly, the escaped man began to emit breaths, a sign of viral infection. He claimed he had not been bitten. The short-haired woman immediately noticed a scratch on his neck, showing that even a zombie's scratch could cause infection. Always decisive, Dazhuang ready to eliminate the threat, but Chang Mao unexpectedly stopped him on the spot. Dazhuang was not allowed to harm his companion. As the two tangled, the man suddenly snatched the whistle from the instructor's neck. Without looking back, he ran out the bus door, luring the zombies at the entrance. Seeing this, everyone else followed. He was about to rush to the truck, but the instructor freed him and returned to the lab. Surprisingly, the female instructor and little girl survived. She had antibodies against the virus. Developing the vaccine was crucial. As she finished speaking, the instructor promptly knocked out your mentor and left the laboratory with the little girl. Meanwhile, the scratched man. He whistled as he ran into the woods. Knowing he was about to become a monster, he chose to attract the zombies, sacrificing himself to give everyone a chance to escape. The prisoners took the opportunity to run towards the truck. There were still some zombies nearby. A female prisoner at the back was overpowered. Dazhuang and Chang Mao fought to break through. Finally, they escorted the short-haired woman to the driver's seat, but just as Chang Mao tried to start the truck. Meanwhile, Dazhuang, to protect the safety of the short-haired woman, was accidentally bitten by several zombies. Realizing he was already infected, he decisively led the lions into the woods. Zombies finally overwhelmed him, allowing Chang Mao to start the engine while the short-haired woman didn't wait. She drove the truck alone to Daji. Chang Mao was also knocked down by 2 zombies. If the remaining 2 female prisoners hadn't arrived in time, she might not have escaped death. The escape hope was dashed, forcing the 3 to return to the concentration camp. Suddenly, the instructor broke through the siege with the little girl, using his own strength. Their goal was to head to another camp, and after Chang Mao returned to the concentration camp, he also discovered the location of the other camp on the map and met the female instructor after she woke up. Although the female instructor was quite arrogant before, Chang Mao did not give her a hard time. At this point, they only wanted to know the truth behind the virus outbreak and how to leave this hellish place. With things coming to this point, the female instructor had no other choice but to bring them to the surveillance room and reveal all the truth through the monitoring videos. Subsequently, the military secretly initiated highly classified experiments with the ultimate goal of developing terrifying biochemical weapons through parasites. Meanwhile, they used the antibodies from the little girl to develop a vaccine against the virus. After 2 years of experiments, they finally developed a vaccine. They then used prisoners for live experiments, but the inmates injected with the virus mutated. For unknown reasons, the vaccine not only failed to work, but instead increased the virus's contagiousness. This led to the current situation, but even so, the female instructor still believed that only the antibodies in the little girl could stop the disaster. Now, they had been taken by that instructor. Originally, the instructor knew about the experiments from the beginning. Moreover, the key person was not as the instructor claimed to be unaware. They guessed that the other side must have taken the little girl to the nearest camp, so they planned to go and retrieve her. But the female instructor said she wanted to stay behind out of fear of the zombies, no longer showing her usual arrogance. Chang Mao didn't say much and then left the surveillance room. Following the map route, the 3 soon found a nearby site. They just didn't expect that here, besides the instructor and the little girl, was Ben Fan, who abandoned them and drove off alone. He remained calm as the long-haired man sought a proper conversation with the instructor to train the little girl. However, the instructor revealed he planned to take not only the girl, but also the attractive short-haired woman. Seeing no room for negotiation, the 2 prepared to use force when the door opened, and the supervisor entered with a handgun. Site atmosphere instantly grew tense as the other side held a significant advantage, deterring reckless actions. Meanwhile, the unbearably hungry supervisor grabbed the food on the table. He put down his gun and began to wolf down the food. The instructor tried to take the gun, but the supervisor saw through his plan and said he only wanted to leave alive without causing trouble. The only way to survive was for everyone to cooperate. However, the instructor accused the supervisor of abandoning his subordinates and leaving alone. In response, the supervisor explained, after being bitten by a zombie, he had no choice but to act. He immediately injected the vaccine and seemed fine. However, when he finished speaking, the supervisor became anxious, indicating the vaccine hadn't worked. When the other party began to mutate, the instructor decisively seized their gun, pointed it at the ground, and charged forward. The short-haired woman led the little girl into the car, intending to leave Chang Mao to fend for herself. Upon boarding, she discovered 2 other female prisoners inside but ignored their attempts to dissuade her. She drove away from Chang Mao, attracting the instructor's attention. Chang Mao seized the chance to attack, and they immediately fought. But this time, shortly after firing, the short-haired woman, persuaded by the other woman, suddenly had a change of heart and turned around to go back. Meanwhile, the long-haired man, after a fierce struggle, successfully seized the handgun from the other party's hands. He fired the gun without hesitation, frightening nearby zombies, but lacked the heart to kill the coach. Okay. He left the house, leaving his gun without bullets, but as soon as he stepped outside, he was attacked by several zombies. The instructor who followed shortly also got caught in the zombie assault and fell into fierce battle. At that moment, both had no choice but to fight zombies together. Fortunately, the short-haired woman time-traveled. Under the instructor's cover, the long-haired man tried to enter the car, but was trapped by zombies and couldn't escape. Upon seeing this, the long-haired man immediately exited to rescue him. After struggling to return him to the car, a zombie quickly dragged him back into the horde. Even the woman sitting in the driver's seat was unfortunately bitten on her hand by a zombie. The female prisoner in the back seat was dragged out by the zombies, and it was clear that the instructor had also been bitten. After leaving the remaining people and taking them to a safe place, the woman slammed on the brakes to stop the car. Knowing that her mutation was imminent and her time was running out, she chose to leave alone to avoid burdening everyone. After an unknown amount of time, the 3 survivors finally drove into the city, thinking they were finally safe. However, the crisis was not over. The city before them was already in ruins. Obviously, the city had been attacked by zombies, and the zombie virus was completely out of control. After watching this Mongolian zombie movie, I can only say 2 words. Unbeatable plot is cliched, not to mention the storyline. It's completely illogical. The protagonists run around without knowing what to do. Despite a clear weapons cache and transportation, they neither obtain weapons nor use transport to escape immediately. Additionally, the editing is very chaotic. The production quality feels like a group of interns tinkering together. Even worse than some low-budget online movies, the background music is inexplicable. Some works are so bad they're considered masterpieces, like Killing Tornado, which is creative enough to be viewed as a comedy. There are other works that are so poorly made yet very distinctive, not relying on gore. They just add some gore to find highlights, but this zombie movie is a disaster. It would have been better to watch Train to Busan a few more times. This video ends here. Thank you to all the fans for watching. See you in the next one without missing it.